Mediopolis, Chapter 13. The no-showers arrived to Showtown. Young Lucy Benjamin was a child governess. She'd worked for many years as such. She'd cared for many children as a child governess. She did not, though, watch shows with the children. Neither had she ever filmed children watching shows, nor filmed them dancing with shows, nor filmed them doing anything. Nor did she watch films of the children that she looked after. In fact, she knew of those things, knew of the show world, but yet had never done them themselves. She'd not done it herself. She'd never had to study doing it either. She had her children that she was looking after, doing studying, cleaning, and there were also games that they would be playing sometimes too, educational games that she hoped. That involved no such shows though. No filming was involved with it. She didn't have them watching films, nor participating within them. It was just not something that she'd ever done really before. She was used to visiting the homes of many no-showing parents. They had no expectation that she would film the children, nor encourage them into filming of any sort or editing. And those no-showing parents, they were happy that she didn't involve them with shows and films. They had no expectation or desire for that of their children. In her own travelling show, on her visits, as an au pair, neither did she have any expectation of them to watch other shows, nor to show themselves. She claimed to the show families, those show families that she did occasionally visit, she claimed that she was from a family that was brought up without any shows. There were no shows that you were expected to be part of. There was nothing like that in the families that she grew up with, nor in the places that she grew up. And when she first met the show mother, who had told her there was only a little light show cleaning, and of course, the usual show shopping and the show plays, the show studies of the children, then Lucy was confused, amazed, and a little sceptical to hear about all this, and to wonder why other people chose that. Either that people lived in that way in actual show houses. She wondered why on earth people chose to live like that, and if they ever really needed to, since her family had never needed that. But she knew little about it, was curious by it anyway. Although the polite, friendly young lady was quite familiar enough with the showmum's type of language, she was still unfamiliar with the new ways that she felt she used the language sometimes, like meeting a foreigner almost, but needing a notepad to write down a glossary for so many of the new phrases or terms that the mother and other show mothers she'd met used. They were at the show family home. The showmum had said at the door, "Welcome to our show house," as if it was normal. She never usually called it that, of course, because it was obvious to everyone else in the show that it was that. Only to people that were from no-show families or no-show houses. She knew that the young lady, the governess, Lucy, was a no-shower from a no-show family, had never had any experience with that before, from the no-showing family, so wanted to make sure that she would know exactly what she was joining, what their show family was about. Because she was so unfamiliar with it, she felt the need to give her an introduction, a talk to it. Young Lucy was stood there at the door. She smiled back, but found a little puzzled at the strangeness of it still, and looked at the mother's happy, welcoming face. Well, she seemed genuine and nice enough, and the house looked nice enough too. It was a nice, tidy garden with a row of nice, beautiful flowers, with a neat lawn in front, and a tidy brick wall, and a garden gate that was functional, and a path that was easy and sturdy to walk along. Everything about it looked and appeared nice enough, and the advert she'd replied to, had been nicely worded and considerate, a very concise, relevant invitation, really, to what was a show care for the children, though she really hadn't quite understood what that term had meant, not at the time, what the mother had meant by show care, and knew nothing, really, of what the mother's dreams were to one day believe in, of what she really meant and dreamed of when she meant show care. Really, She wanted to be part of one of the great care shows, but something that Lucy knew little to nothing about. She never heard of what a care show was, really, or that maybe a care show scout, whatever that was, would view her, one of the children's show carers. She really didn't know anything about what that could be. On her own, with them, how could she be a show carer if she knew nothing about show families or show homes or whatever show caring jobs were? She really knew nothing about that. She'd just been a simple home carer, a governess, a nanny, many different roles, one thing that had led into the other over many years. That was her experience. "But you know it is a show house, don't you?" said the potential employee, the mother. She'd asked it after they'd exchanged their personal names and a few greetings on the doorstep. And she'd asked about Lucy's journey here. Having some delay with the traffic, apparently. She hoped she hadn't got too lost, like many of the other visitors often did, because it was a long, tangled road to get to. "I remember you said on the phone you make shows," said Lucy, still stood on the doorstep. The older woman stood inside, blocking the doorway, not wanting her to enter in unless she first knew what she was entering into. "Well, it's more than a show. It's more that the show makes us," said the older mother, after some thought. "They make us more aware of what we're doing, more conscious of everything," the mother said. And she began, speaking as the show mum, searching for the words, hesitating, wishing she'd prepared a script, but not knowing what she would say to the woman, or who or how the woman would be with her. We're more sensitive to each other because we're just more aware of each other's presence. Even when we're not alone, others could still be watching later. So we're not tempted to do something that we might regret, said the mother. But again she paused, as if still thinking about her explanation. She paused. "To do anything, that could offend anyone else," she went on, "unless there's a reason to. And when we all get to discover, each other's offences or things that have offended each other, it just gives us the opportunity or the chance to respond sometimes, to be responded to too," explained the mother, stuttering over her words, feeling that she began her show positivity too soon, regretting now telling the near stranger her show beliefs, and on the doorstep too, feeling that she wished she was doing this inside the house, really, sat down in a more comfortable room. Even if she seemed nice enough, didn't look too judgmental, and still remained quite curious. She wasn't sure how open-minded she really would be, being from a no-show family. And seeing how Lucy still looked a little puzzled, as if she still had so many questions to ask of the show mother. She then decided just to keep it simple and just to tell her what show she was really going into, and not to go into all the why showing until later perhaps. "Well, everything in the house is filmed and can be edited into the house show," explained the mother, still stood at the doorway, inside the house, looking out at Lucy and the great world beyond. "So I'm on camera now, then," said Lucy, looking up and around, surprised, not seeing any cameras. "You all have been on the street camera all the way up here, and the house cam too, as you came in the doorway, the garden gate," said the mother, pointing down beyond Lucy. "And you're on the house camera now, from inside, as well." She looked behind her, pointing upwards. And then pointing upwards. "The camera's all around," said the mother. "They can hear, see, all around us, around the house and the garden," went on the mother. "Oh, see, so you're recording our conversation," clarified Lucy. "Of course," said the show mother. "Everything's recorded in and around the house, everything in the house. Well, most of it is recorded. Not all of it makes audio, is actually, hearable. And not all of that will then make the family show, will make the edit, said the mother. "Just the highlights," she said, explaining the show beliefs, not mentioning, though, the lowlights that could also potentially be featured. "Oh, so it's like a reality show that you're living inside?" asked Miss Benjamin, still a little unbelieving that people could actually live this way. Yes, she'd seen programmes like that a long, long time ago, but she'd never really heard of people living for many years like that, not as a family like that. Yes, I suppose we are real people, said the show mum, taken back a little, thinking over it, a little puzzled by the strange term, she thought, laughing a little. How could real people live in anything else but a real house? She smiled. We could hardly live in a fantasy home, could we now? And she tried to laugh a little, but Lucy still looked puzzled, staring strangely back. Well, I've never been to a reality show, but I've heard of the reality shows. I watched a few many years ago, explained Lucy. She began trying to explain it, hoping that she hadn't so far insulted the woman by saying that, with her nervous pretend laughter. Well, you're welcome to come in and join the show. I can tell you much more about it inside if you want to, said the show mum, feeling that the doorstep chat really wasn't the place to go into a long talk, and that it would be better just to talk comfortably inside, when they were relaxed more. And everything inside is part of the show? Asked Lucy, still curious but unsure. Yes, but it's not all going to be used for the final production show. So some things, if you want and ask, could be edited out, suggested the mother. Yet the potential childminder, the governess, who had reasonable rates and references, importantly for the mother, still wasn't quite convinced by this. Anything you do say, or you do, could be kept in a private show that only the family need see. You don't have to be then part of